Okay.
Lens is dirty.
My lens is dirty? Any better? Is that any better, Parrots?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hold on. Oh, there's something stuck in it.
Show you a napkin? Show you a napkin?
This is gonna help.
What do you have?
Hope I'm not making anybody
They see
dizzy.
my face now. They really think it's broken.
Yeah, now it's really dirty. Guy, you see it off somebody's face.
In cups, right?
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so on the top of Nun Vav Amud Aleph.
Oh, but before you start, yesterday I said because I pointed to the guy and was waiting for you to kill me afterwards. After I say it, you misunderstood. Yesterday I said the same. I'm already going to kill me, and I realized I didn't say it.
Okay. That's what we got up to, right? I see it is unclear. So we said that it doesn't make a difference what kind of intercourse it is, whether it's harah, which means it's just the Aver just touches, which was yesterday's daf, right? Machlokes, whether it means just touching or just the whole crown of the Aver going in, or it has to be mamish, the entire meaning. It doesn't make a difference. That the yavam is kind of the yivama with that. So my kana, what does it mean that he's kind of her? Rav Amar kana l'chol. Rav says he's kind of everything. Becomes like a regular standard Kenyan standard wife, right? She could eat trumah if he was a kohen. If he is a kohen, then she could eat trumah, right? Even without a bia gemur. Shmuel Amar loikana. Shmuel says no, he's not kind of her only elul lidvarim hamurim b'parsha, except for the things that it says in the parsha, which is what? Meaning in the parsha of Yibam, right? Where it says yivama yavayaleh, that it's only the things that says in the parsha specifically, which is liyarish b'nichsei achiv. He gets to yarshin his dead brother, right? You have a brother who died without kids. The brother that does the yibum gets all his dead brother's money. And it also makes her potter from yibum, but she's not allowed to eat trumah. That's the bottom line. We're on Nun Vav Amud Aleph, 5 lines down from the top now. Yeah.
So Rav is saying the parsha of Torah and the parsha in the Torah of Yibum. So it's more than that.
What do you mean it's more than that?
Rav is saying kind of a call. It's forever. It's more than what the Torah says.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. It's more than it's more than what the Torah says. It's your regular standard marriage, which I mean the basic nafkamina, right? The difference is whether she's allowed to eat truma or not. So according to Rav, she's a regular wife. When once a Bas Yisrael marries a kohen, she gets the truma, right? But Shmuel saying no, she's not allowed to eat truma. And now we're going to be busy with this truma for the next few blot, right? So now before we continue, let's just say a hakdama. So basically, when a woman gets engaged,
I'm sorry, am I missing something here? This woman is full to Yibum.
Right.
Her husband passed away. Her husband was a kohen, wasn't he?
Correct.
So why shouldn't she continue? She's going to be married again?
Right, very good. Because once he dies, she can no longer eat truma.
But if she's marrying
so that's it, right? So that's she. But she first has to get remarried to the brother.
Okay.
Right. Which what Rav is asking, good question. Why doesn't Zika?
Right.
I hate to bring that up. I hate to bring up a bad
What's the other
memories.
thing? What's the other thing called?
Zika, right? Mimer.
Mimer.
No, Mimer would.
Oh, Mimer.
Right, but Zika, I think Zika, why doesn't the Zika just make it? Right? I don't know. I hear that's a good question. Why doesn't it just be that she's attached to this brother-in-law? That should be enough to let her eat. I hear that question. I'm not sure. But either way, the standard case, let's talk a standard marriage. You have a Bas Yisrael who's marrying a kohen. So they get engaged, what we call Kiddushin, right? Erison, whatever you want to call it. Once they get engaged, according to the dinim of the Torah, she's allowed to eat trumah, even though they're not getting married for another year, right? Back then, they didn't get married for another year. But for Dinei Torah, she's allowed to eat trumah. The Chachamim made a gezer and said she can't eat trumah, because what's going to happen is he's going to send his kala a present, shalach manas, right, of trumah. Why not? It doesn't cost him anything. And then she's going to share it with her family. Right? So the Chachamim were afraid she's going to share it with the family. So they said, okay, she's not allowed to eat trumah until they get married. So the question is here, do we say that this bia that was just a harah, maybe that's not strong enough to allow her to eat trumah? So that's a Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav holds she can eat trumah from it, and Shmuel says she cannot. So minan nesuim, if she became, right now we're going to get into Reb Rev, this is really going to answer also your question. Meaning if she became a almana from Nisuin, then I call achla. Then everybody holds she could eat it. Dahavas ka'achlas me'ikara. Since she was already eating it, then she's allowed to continue. Right? Meaning she's allowed to continue, but only if she had another yibam. She still needs the second. She needs it, not another yibam. She needs yibam, right? But the main thing that's coming off is that since she was eating trumah before, you don't need a major marriage in order to allow her to eat trumah. Ki pligi min ha'erisin. Their whole machlokes is if she got engaged and then her husband died. So Rav Amar Eicheles, she could eat it. The Harabi Rachmana bias shaygig b'mezid, because the Torah said that when you do what meaning, where's Rav learning it from? Because what do our Mishnah say? It doesn't make a difference if the yavam sleeps with his yivama b'shaygig or b'mezid. It doesn't make a difference. As long as there's an intercourse, then that makes them married. So since a shaygig is like a mezid, so therefore you see that any minimum amount of relations that goes on here is enough to make her considered married, and therefore she's allowed to have trumah. Shmuel Amar ki Rabbi Rahman lo'ak me b'makam bal. That's only in the place where meaning we're only saying that the new husband, meaning the brother that survived, it goes in the place of the original husband. But to be stronger than the Baal, not. Right? So Shmuel, yeah.
I don't understand. If a person normally did, let's say a person didn't keep Rav's sheets and he did bias kedushin, right? He was kind of his stam. A person was kind of his wife with bias kedushin. Would that not also be considered nisuin? Once he did bias kedushin?
What do you mean? They just did.
Meaning, would the Kenyan kedushin also count for nisuin as well? Is he only koner legabe erison?
I thought only erison. But the Gemara is actually going to come up with a case where he did something m'shem nesuin without doing erison. That's basically what you're asking, right?
Right. So even though you're miyachid with her, it's only legabe erison.
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow.
I understand. So how would you do? There's no Indian of chuppah or not chuppah. The idea of yichud when it comes to this.
There is. Yeah, we're going to discuss it tomorrow.
So how do you avoid nisuin when it comes to bias kedushin?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Meaning, wouldn't it include that? I'm just trying to understand how. Meaning, why should this be any? Why would it? How do you avoid having nisuin when you do bias kedushin?
Right. I mean, how do you
exclude it from only considering it erison?
Yeah, so we'll have to see, I guess, when we learn ksubis or kedushin. Yeah, maybe tomorrow's daf might address it, but I don't think it definitely discusses chuppah without kedushin. So maybe.
Well, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying you're doing kedushin, but you're somehow ignoring the chuppah part, even though you're miyachid with her.
Right. I hear. I'm not sure. But anyway, so Shmuel was saying an interesting thing, because they were only engaged when the husband died. So since they were only engaged, we said midrabanan, she was never allowed to have the truma. So now what are you going to say? That the new brother comes and makes it a stronger, just with his light bia, makes it stronger than what the original husband was able to. By the original husband, she wasn't allowed to have truma. So why by the second husband she should be able to have truma? So that's Shmuel sheet. Again, Rav holds that you see that shaygig is like mazid, so therefore even any minor kinyan is going to make her into a yivama, and she's allowed to eat truma. And Shmuel says no, because then it means the second husband's marriage is stronger than the first husband's, and that can be. Does Shmuel
hold that the isser of eating truma by Erison is braysa?
I don't think so.
So it's not stronger than the Baal. There's just
It
no
is.
gzeira.
Okay, but it's lemaisa. But a second husband, she could eat truma. The first husband not.
I mean,
Right.
so if the first husband paskin like Reb Shimon in Muktzah, and the second husband paskin like Reb Yehuda, he can't. Well, what does that mean? It's a gzeira. The gzeira doesn't apply. It doesn't apply.
But it does
He's making
apply.
a completely new gzeira here.
It's not. Why is it a new gezerah?
Because everyone's masking the mina nisu and she can eat. Even mina erison she can eat.
Correct, but this is a shvacha bia. The bia is shvach. The kinyan is lousy. The kinyan is only with harah. So that's
So does this just mean until the next beer?
yes, that's what I would think. Once they have a regular bia, then the chayrush, then there's no question. That's why I understand it. Yeah. Anyways, was the Shmuel tamei damar Nachman Amar Shmuel kol shahabal Michael yavam Michael. Anything that the Baal, whatever the Baal can give, meaning the original husband who died, can give, then the yavam gives. V'chol she'ena Baal Michael yavam ena Michael. Whatever the Baal can't give, then he cannot. Then the yavam can't give, which Rashi says is referring to a bia gerua, right? Meaning this harah is a bia gerua. Right, meaning that's not the proper yibum. Fine, so that's a Machlokes Rav and Shmuel.
Isn't
Again,
that
according
just
to
saying
this
the
version,
same thing?
what?
This isn't Shmuel Tamei. This is Shmuel saying the same exact thing. What does he change from kol?
Yeah, Enochanami. It's a well. I don't. It's
No
Latamei.
tzrifasa here.
No, it's not. He's not teaching the same din. Right?
What's the difference?
Because here we're talking about where the first husband did the suing.
That was also, according to Rashi,
Yeah.
that's a bia gerua.
Yeah. I hear. All right. I don't know. I mean, Latamei means he's saying it in another place. Okay, I hear what you're saying. But either way, just to recap here. So Rav and Shmuel having a machlokes where when they were engaged and not married, right? If she got engaged, if she was engaged, meaning if she was married, and then the husband died, so then for sure everybody holds that once, even if there's harah, that's enough to allow the second wife, the wife from the second husband to eat the trumah. The machlokes is if that he died, the husband died when they were only engaged. Where Rav holds she could still eat trumah, Shmuel says not. So then Meisvei, Bas Yisrael pikachas, which is an interesting terminology because a pikeach means somebody who's smart, right? So, but here it doesn't mean necessarily smart; it just means not dumb, right? Bas Yisrael pikachas shenis arsa lekohen pikeach. So she got engaged to a kohen who was a pikeach. Veloy hispik, meaning they're both of right mind. Veloy hispik lekohen so achen ishar. So they got engaged, and then what happened is that he became a cheresh, right? He became mute, deaf mute, right? Which means that somebody who's deaf mute does not have any more das, so therefore he can't get married. So what's the status now? They got engaged, so really she can't eat truma because they never got married. That's a midrabana. So she's not allowed to eat truma. Meaning even if he goes and gets married to her, since he doesn't have das, his marriage is nothing.
And he can't give a get
Right?
either.
And he can't give a get either.
So
yes,
she's stuck?
She's stuck. right? We're going to see the case later on in the Masechta. Meis v'naflo lefnei yavam cheresh. But if he died, and then she fell to a yavam who was also deaf, right? And he did yibum. So Eicheles, then she's allowed to eat truma. Ubezu yafe koyach hayavam mikoyach habal. And here you see that the koyach of the yavam is stronger than the koyach habal. Because if she would have been married to her first husband, she would not be able to eat truma. But now she got married to the second husband, meaning to the yavam, then she's allowed to. All right. So Bishlam, the Rav Nicha. So this fits in according to Rav, because Rav says that she's allowed to eat truma from the second husband, even if the first one she wasn't allowed to. But Shmuel said you can't say that the second husband is going to be stronger than the first husband, and the first husband couldn't eat truma. So how can you say here that the second husband's allowed to eat truma? Ella Shmuel kasha, but according to Shmuel it's a kasha. So Shmuel will tell you, Ema hachi, say this. Now there's another one where Shmuel is changing the braysa. He's going to he's adding in a sentence here. So it says, that's the same. He wasn't able to marry her until he became deaf mute. He's not going to eat truma. But here's what part he adds. And let's say they got married, meaning they got married regular. Again, he was not deaf mute, and then he got married. And he got engaged, and then he got married, and then he became deaf mute. Right? So Eichlas, she can eat truma. Mace v'nafla lefnei yavam cheresh. But then if he died, and then she has to be married, but to a husband who did not, meaning the one that did yibum was a cheresh. Eichlas, then she could eat it.
He could do yivama cheresh?
What? He did. That's the point. He did do it. No, he can't. Right? So Eicheles, then she is allowed to eat. Why? Why is she allowed to eat? Because of her original husband, like Rav was saying before. She was allowed to eat truma from the original husband. So now, even though the second husband was not a proper marriage, but the bottom line is she had a heter for truma, so we're allowing it. Umay bezu. Okay, so then he says, so then what's bezu? We say it's more yafa koyach. Here we're saying it's not any. We said the koyach by here, the koyach, meaning the original braysa said here, the koyach, this is a case of the koyach of the yavam is stronger than the koyach of the baal. What does it mean, bezu? The ilu baal cheresh may kara lo yecheles. For if in the case where the husband was a cheresh without, meaning there was never any time that they were married, lo yecheles, she's not allowed to eat truma. The ilu yavam cheresh. But if the case where the yavam was a cheresh meikara, then you are allowed to eat.
If she gets engaged and he becomes a cheresh, and then he dies,
according to Shmuel, she cannot eat the truma.
but then the yavam, the cheresh yavam, let's be with her, then she can eat truma.
No,
So
not because Shmuel's saying it in a case where
he was married.
They got
he was
married,
fully married to a fully healthy person.
married, then he became a
right.
cheresh.
So that means that's not the yavam stronger than the husband.
In that case, the yavam is.
How?
It's not, right? It's not. It's just a play on words.
Okay.
It's just a play on words that there is a scenario where the yavam will be stronger than a case of a regular marriage, but it's not in the same case. It's not going to be the same parallel. It's not going to be the parallel cases, right? Okay.
See, actually, saying the bia is stronger. The bia here, you're doing a bia that is meaning the knisa is stronger.
Well, yeah. Here we're not dealing with
I'm
harah.
saying
here we're
because
dealing with bia. Yes.
Meaning
Correct.
the knisa over here is stronger compared to what a knisa of a normal chair should be. That's what the Gemara is saying.
What do you mean the knisa?
The knisa of the yibum of this yavam is stronger than a normal knisa of a chair.
Because the original because the original
so
marriage
it is stronger.
was
It's
proper.
not a play on words. It actually is stronger than a normal knisa of a chair.
It is, but it's not. Meaning, but it's not a parallel case. That's all. It's not a parallel.
Right, but I'm
case.
saying, but it actually is. He's able to affect more than a normal scenario of
Yes, correct. Yes, that's true. 100%. So now we have the same Gemara, but now the opposite.
What's the reason of the braysa that if the husband is charish before knisa l'chuppah, she can't eat truma? Which reason? There's three reasons why an arusa can't eat truma, but which reason would that be? Huh?
Well, but you're just going to fit into your standard marriage, and since she's a chayra, she can't get married. So the marriage, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but the gzeira doesn't work. There's only 3 reasons for the gzeira, and none of them apply.
Right. I know, but what are you going to say? I mean, we're going to say like plug, I guess.
Rashi says we're gazrina nesui cherish atu kedusha cherish. The Gemara later on.
Gzeira. That's what I'm asking.
And I don't know. They
You want to
probably
say
deal
now
with
you
later
want to
on.
put
The
in
Gemara
Gzeira,
discusses
Gzeira?
this. The Gemara explains this case later on. Rashi says Gazrina will come on.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Be'ika damri, the others say that it's the opposite. Mina erisin divrei hakol loyach. Where if they were just engaged, and even Rav and Shmuel, they both hold she can't eat trumah. Meaning, if they were engaged, not the death case, the standard case, they were engaged, and then the husband died, and then the brother did harah, right? The haloy achla b'chaye ba, because she never was able to eat the trumah b'chaye ba because they were only engaged. Keep ligim and nesuin. When is there a machlokes? When by nesuin. Rav Amar. Rav says she's allowed to eat it to havas achla meikara because she was eating in the first place. So even though it's a lousy yibum, but that's enough. Shmuel Amar Eina Cheles, she doesn't eat it. Ki Rabbi Rahman bia shaygig b'mezid, because when did the Torah say that the bia of a shaygig is like a mezid, right? Which again we said that the comparison with harah is that they're all lousy. They're lousy kinyonim, right? When a man is being kind to the wife, so it's a lousy kinyonim. So Ki Rabbi Rahman bia shaygig b'mezid. The Dvarim Amurim b'Parsha, that's only for the things that it says in the Parsha, like we said, for him to yashin her, right? And she's potter from Yibam. But for everything else, we did not say that a shaygig is strong enough to allow her to eat trumah. Right? So now the Gemara is going to say, now everything that was a raya before is a kasha. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, Kol Shabal Machal Yavam Michael. Didn't Rav Nachman say b'Shem Shmuel that whatever the Baal eats, the Yavam, whatever the Baal can let the wife eat, so the Yavam can also. So Ema, so it's a Kol Bia Shabal Michael ba Yavam Michael ba. Any bia that the Baal can eat, the Yavam can eat. V'chol bia she'ena Baal Michael ba, ena Yavam Michael ba. And whatever bia that you can't, the husband will not allow the wife, not meaning, I keep saying not allow, it doesn't mean it's giving permission, meaning that the marriage will not, or whatever the engagement / marriage will not allow the wife to eat. So ein habal Michael ba, so the Baal won't either. Right? Meaning if the kohen just slept with the woman, that's not going to be enough to allow her to eat trumah if they didn't do it through the proper channels. So Meisvei Bas Yisrael Pikacha Shenesas L'Kohen Pikach. We have a Bas Yisrael who was smart. Again, that's a literal translation, but regular. That she got engaged to a Kohen Pikach. V'loi Hispik L'Kohen Tzad Shenescharish, and he was not able to marry her until he became deaf mute. She's not allowed to eat. Mace, and then he died, and then he fell to his brother, who was also deaf mute. So she could eat trumah. Ubezu yafa koyach yam mikoyach bal. That's the yafa koyach yam mikoyach bal. So bisham the Rav mitaretz kidataretz meikara. According to Rav, we could say the way it was that we said in the beginning. El Shmuel kasha, but according to Shmuel, this is a kasha, right? Because we're saying that shaygig doesn't allow anybody to eat truma, and here, meaning it's not a strong enough relations to allow truma, and here it seems like it would be. So kasha, so Anochanami, that's a kasha on Shmuel. Somebody just asked me a shaila actually a few weeks ago about a guy, because you think these things can't develop. I just thought about this shaila now, so just to take something epis practical out of this stuff. Is this guy Nebuch, he has a brother who is becoming blind. And it's a genetic thing, and this guy just found out that he's also a carrier or whatever it is, and he will also become blind, they think, in approximately 10 years. Right? So what do they do about dating? Do you say, do you not say, when do you say? Right? So whatever. So I just thought that it's interesting. You don't think there's a practical from this Gemara, but you got two brothers One his eyesight's already going, and the other one is told that his eyesight's going to be going too. So, yeah. But even though we said that a blind person is not considered a shaita, right? Only the deaf. Okay, whatever it is, fine. Tana Rabbana, Bas Yisrael, what? Yeah. So Tana Rabbana, so Bas Yisrael pikach shenesas l'kain pikach. A Bas Yisrael, again going over this case, you have a Bas Yisrael who is all there, that's engaged to a kohen who's all there, and he wasn't able to marry her until he became deaf mute. She's not allowed to eat the trumah, right? Meaning, even when he goes through and gets married, he does the nesuin, he can't do it because he's nebuch. He's not mentally all there. But if she has a child, if she has a kid, then she's allowed to start eating trumah. Why? Because since the kid is allowed to eat trumah, so she's also allowed to eat trumah. Meis haben, but what happens after the ben? If the ben dies, if the son dies, so she's still allowed to eat trumah. She's not allowed to eat anymore, right? So my time of the rose. So why does Rav Nosson say that she can continue to eat? Since she already started eating, so once she starts eating, she can continue eating. To which obviously the Chacham disagree. So you want to ask, if you have a Bas Yisrael who gets a Bas Yisrael that marries a kohen and then died, right? Teichel, then she should be able to continue eating trumah shekvar ochla, right? Meaning this is what we were discussing before. A Bas Yisrael marries a kohen, she could eat trumah. The husband dies, she has to stop eating trumah. According to Rav Nosson, why? Once she started eating trumah, she could continue eating trumah. Elakiman, so that can't be. Elakiman de misle pakale kedusha semine. Since he died, so then the kedusha goes away. The kedusha goes away from her. So Chanami, kiman de misle, since the son died, paka kedusha semina. So the kedusha goes away. So why is Rav Nosson saying that she's still allowed to eat truma even after her son dies? Elam Rav Yosef, because Rav Nosson is sui cheresh machilin betruma. Because Rav Nosson has a different shita. He holds that if once the kohen, that's the chassan, gets married, even though he's doing it after he was deaf, it still works. That meaning the marriage works enough for her to eat truma. And we don't make a gezerah of marriage of cheresh with kedushin of cheresh, right? So therefore, if they did end up getting married, she will be able to have truma. So he disagrees with the whole premise. Rav Nosson disagrees with the whole premise, which the obvious question is, then so why do you need the case of a son was born again? The braysa starts off with that if they get married when the husband is a shaita or a cheresh, then she's not allowed to eat truma. Then they have a machlokes. If they have a kid, so Rav Nosson says she's allowed to eat truma, and the Chacham say not. What I mean, now we're saying Rav Nosson holds she's allowed to eat truma even when they don't have a kid. Right? Even if they don't have a kid, Rav Nosson holds it. So why are you saying it only if they have a kid? So he says, Mishum Rabbanon. He was going in the Rabbanon. Meaning that when the Rabbanon who hold that she's not allowed to eat truma, but they'd be mother when she has a kid. So then Gemara says, "V'liflik Rabbi Nosson alay b'reisha." Why doesn't Rabbi Nosson disagree with him in the reisha? Why are you waiting till after the child to disagree? Meaning the case of the child. So Shavik lu Rabbanon ad Masai. No, he said he let the Rabbanon talk until they finished what they were saying, and then he disagreed with them. So that's why he took till later. So Gemara asks again, listening Mesa ben Enoy Chelas, right? Meaning, so how come the Rabbanon didn't say that if the boy dies or the child dies, then she can't eat truma? Rav Nosson Omer Chelas, and Rav Nosson holds that you can't eat, right? So why doesn't the braysa say it that way? So again, the Gemara says kasha. That is a kasha, right? But really, what comes up from this Gemara, the maskana of the Gemara, is that Rav Nosson disagrees with this whole premise of this Gemara, and he holds that if they do get married, then she is allowed to eat truma. Fine. So that's that subject. Now we're on to the next subject. So we said that anybody who goes on any of the arayas with harah, right, then that's considered like a bia. Somar of Amram Hamilsa Amralan Rav Sheshes. This thing Rav Sheshes told us on Talmud Beis now. Van Harinu la'aynon mimas nisin, and he made our eyes clear from the Mishnah. Meaning he brought a riot to what he said from our Mishnah. What did he say? Eishes Yisrael shenensa. So if you have the wife of the Yisrael who was raped, afapi shemateres l'bayla psula l'kahuna. Even though she's mutter to her husband, but she's pasal to kahuna, right? So we had this before. We had this a few times. What's the din if a woman voluntarily is mizana, then she has to get divorced? If she's raped, she does not have to get divorced unless she's married to a kohen. She's married to a kohen, and even if she's raped, she's not allowed to stay married to that kohen. So the Gemara here is saying where she was raped when she was married to a Yisrael, then that Yisrael died, right? And now she wants to go marry a kohen. She's not allowed to marry a kohen since there was a extramarital intercourse, even though she was forced, but it's strong enough to make her usher to a kohen later on. Right? So that's the chiddush is that even though right now she could stay married to her husband, but if that husband would have died, she wants to marry a kohen, she would not be allowed to marry a kohen since she was raped when she was married. Tana Tuna, and our Tana learns like this. Because our Mishnah says if any of the arayas if the guy sleeps with any arayas from the Torah, psulas, or any of the psulas from the Torah, which is alman l'kohen gadol, kusha chalutza l'kohen hedjit. So what is the my v'chein? What does it mean? And also my love loishna b'shagi v'loishna b'mezi loishna b'aynis loishna b'ratzon. Doesn't make a difference whether it's by mistake or on purpose, or whether they were forced, or whether it was b'ratzon. V'katari pasla, and we say that she is puzzled. Puzzle again goes on kohanim. So you see that from our Mishnah that there could be a case where a woman is raped and she will be also to a kohen later on, right? So the Gemara says, "Loi, that's not a raya." My v'chein, what's v'chein going on? A harah. That harah, meaning that harah works. Sai baratz and sai ba'inus, all those type of things. Then that's when with harah she will still be also to a kohen. Does not mean that if she was raped when she's married to Yisrael, does not mean that she still eventually will be also to a kohen. Fine. So I'm going to ask on this teretz harah deman. Right. So what kind of harah for what? So if we're talking about arayas, remember the arayas yivama. Are we trying to say that you learn out arayas from yivama? Adaramba, yivama yofina arayas that we had a few blot ago. How do we know harah even works by yivam? That we learn out from arayas. The ikar harah by arayas, because the ikar harah is written by arayas. Elamai. So what must?
Why is that a kasha?
Why not?
Because the Mishnah says v'chein.
We're trying to figure out what
which ones learn from which.
We're trying to figure out what v'chein is coming to teach us.
Yeah, but it's not coming to teach us. Why would I say that it's coming to teach us that arayas to learn from yivama? It could very well be yivama's learn from arayas. We're learning Masechus Yevamos, not Masechus Ereva. So Mishnah is talking about yavamas, and then v'chein the arayas. Why would I think that we're learning arayas from yivama?
No, I mean, why you're asking not on the terrace? You're asking really on the kasha.
Kasha, yeah.
Yeah, Enochanami. I didn't understand that. Why would we think it's learning it out from yivama? That's what you're asking. Why would you think you're learning it? Yeah, I was bothered by the same thing. I don't know if that helps or makes it worse, but I was bothered by the same thing. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay, so elamai v'chein. So what's v'chein? Ashaloi kedarka darayis. It's going on the shaloi kedarka of arayis, right? So that's what it's saying, that if you boil on any of the arayis, it's possible to kahuna because of zaina. Yeah, and it means even shalai kedarka, right? If the woman was neneses or whatever before with shalai kedarka, it's still going to be a problem. So the Gemara says adarab, ikar mishkevei isha barayis ksiv. When it says mishkevei isha plural, which means kedarka and shalai kedarka, that's also by arayis, right? So, and we're trying from our, I think this is really the answer to what you're saying, Gershon, you're asking, because the Mishnah is referring to Yibam. So, v'chein, you're saying v'chein goes on Arayas. So, the original thing is yivama, that it's a wording issue. Okay, elamai v'chein, ashalai kedarka d'chayvei lavan. The v'chein must be going on shalai kedarka d'chayvei lavan. Right? So, Amar Rava, or Rabba, Eishes kohen shenensa. Yes, this is a new thing. Eishes kohen shenensa, if the wife of a kohen was raped, the Baal is going to be like on her because of Zaina. Meaning, let's say the kohen decides he doesn't want to, it's not his fault that his wife got raped. Why can't he stay married to her? So he stays married to her. So he gets Malkus because he's sleeping with a Zaina. So Gemara asks, Mishum Zaina in Mishum Tumah loy? Only because of Zaina, but because of making himself Tameh, that's not. So Gemara says, Ema af Mishum Zaina. No, it's both. Yeah, fine. So Masir of Zera, he learned this pasa Asura. It says if she was not forced, then she's Asur. Hannis pasa Mutar. It's mashma that if she was, this is talking about a standard Yisrael, right? A Yisrael to a Yisrael. It says that if she was mezana, if she was not forced, she's also to be with her husband. Hannis pasa Mutar. But if she was forced, she's mutar. And there's another case that even though she was forced, she's still also ve'ezu, I don't know, ve'ezu eishes kohen, which is that eishes kohen. The lava b'mechlala saying, meaning this is a lav that comes from an asay, so which means it's an asay. So why should there be malchus, right? An asay for being mevatel mitzvah say you don't get malchus. We just got finished saying that he's going to get 2 malchus. So maraba hakol hayu b'chlal zayna. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Everybody, every relationship that happens in a marriage that's illegal is considered zayna, right? Whether it was forced or not forced. And then when the Torah says that dafka by Eishes Yisrael that asura, that she wasn't raped, she wasn't forced, then she's also handis pasa mutares. But it's mashma that if she was forced, then she's mutter mechlal the eishes kohen kedekaima kaima. So therefore, we say from that the eishes kohen is the way it was, and she would be, and she stays the basic, which is a zayna, and therefore there's malchus because she's considered a zayna. Fine. Ikadamri. Some say the other way. Amar Rabba. Eishes kohen shenenza baila loikalem mishum tuma. The husband gets malchus because of tumah. So Gemara says mishum tumah in mishum zayna loy. She only gets because of tumah, but not because of znus. Alma ba'aynis like karina bei zayna. So you see that by aynis we don't call her a zayna. So the Gemara asks on that masur ozer he loynis pasa asura. If she was not forced, she's asur. Hanis pasa mutaris. But if she is forced, she's mutar. And then there's another scenario sha'ava bishenis pasa asura, that even though she was forced, she's asur. Ve'ezu zu eishes kohen. I didn't want too many zoos there. Ve'ezu zu eishes kohen. Right? That's the wife of a kohen. V'lava mechlala says and I say. Right? So how do you say that it's malchus? So the Gemara is the same time. It's Amar Rava hakol hayu b'chlal acharei asher utama. Everything is included in tumah. Any sort of illegal relationship within a marriage is considered tumah. And when the Torah specifies that by Yisrael, if she wasn't forced, she's also hannes pasa mutaris, but if she was forced, she's mutar. Mechlal the eishes kohen kedekaima kaima. So we see from this that the eishes kohen is the way it was, which is the standard tumah, and that's why they're chayev malchus.
What about Zaina? What about Zaina? Why don't they dash in that as well?
What I mean? Which way?
Seems like in the Ikadamri we're ignoring the idea of Zaina, that it's not included. Why wouldn't it say Kedekaima Kaima when it comes to that drasha? Behila and Ispasa is talking about Zaina also, no? I'm sorry, the
Well,
Hila and
didn't it
Ispasa
ask-
talk about Zaina, right? It's a miyat, correct?
Yeah.
Is
He
he
said,
chaylik on the Hila and
Zaina
Ispasa?
lie.
Why is Shem Zaina loy? If he's darshaning kedekayim akayim when it comes to Toma, it should be the same thing Lagabe Zaina, and then a Behila and Ispasa.
You used to be asking by Inus, it's not, yeah, but she's not. No, the Steika Damri holds that when a kohen, when she's forced, an Ashes kohen is forced, she does not have a din zaina.
How do they darshan Behila and Ispasa?
How are they? They're darshaning for the Tumah part of it, not for the
But
zaina.
Achrei Asher Hatama is for the Toma part, no?
Yeah, but isn't that's yeah. He's saying that the what? No, I thought we're just going to apply that.
How do you apply the Hila, meaning a Hila and Ispasa is only the Gabe Toma, not the Gabe Zaina?
No, you're going to say no, zaina too, but zaina is only when it's voluntary.
Mechatesi.
That's the way the Ikadami is learning that zaina only means voluntary. All it says is zaina la yikach.
Meaning, where do we darshan? For only darshan is Gabi Hutama. Where do we darshan that? Where do we get that? We already used Behila and Ispasa for Tama.
Right.
Mechatesi, you can go ahead and darshan again, unless you say he's talking about Zaina also. That it's being
I don't know
mighty.
if that. I don't know if that's.
So where are we darshaning the Indian of Zaina? It's only Lagabe Ratzin, not Lagabe Einis.
I don't know. I hear.
Why would that need a drasha? Isn't that pashut?
The other Man Yomer, the other way of learning did not think it was pashut. That Einis. So what do you mean it's pashut? The other we just said before, the Indian of Einis is not pashut at all. We have to be excluded. If it's so pashut,
Yeah,
what did
from the
do
same
before?
words. The only question is which words do Vehila and Ispasa, the words Vehila and Ispasa, they do one thing. Either they go back on the words Vehinit Ma'a or on the whole pasuk.
Correct. And now the Gemara is saying it only goes on Hotama.
Yeah.
Not on the whole pasuk.
Zainas the Kidakaima Kaima. The whole pasuk remains the same. Ainus is Ainus.
We're saying that Inus is not zaina. That's okay. It's a little late, so I want to finish. I want to get the next Gemara started. Okay, now continuing with this theme of the trumah, right? So Almana Zok the Mishnah, Almana LeKoyin Gadol. So Almana is obviously a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry an Almana. Grusha v'chalutza LeKoyin Hedjit, and a Grusha and a Chalutza cannot marry a Kohen Hedjit. But if let's say they did do it, let's say they got engaged, but they didn't get married yet, so they're not allowed to eat truma, right? Meaning, so what are we talking about? If they're, well, of course they're Yisraelim. Why should they? So Elamai, we're not talking about Yisraelim. We're talking about daughters of a kohen. A daughter of a kohen becomes an almana, and then she goes and she marries a kohen gadol, or the daughter of a kohen, she becomes divorced, and she goes and she marries a kohen. They didn't get. I'm sorry, I'm saying marriage. I mean they get engaged. She's not allowed to eat truma. That's the first sheet. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Machshirin. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon say she is allowed to. Right? Just because she got engaged to a guy doesn't mean she should lose her rights to eat truma. Again, we're talking about a bas kohen who's mutter in truma. Then she gets into an engagement which is not allowed. Right? So the Tanakama says that she is not allowed to eat truma since she got into this relationship where if she continues and gets married, she will not be allowed to eat truma because it's going to be she's going to be a halala, right? So therefore, even once they're engaged, you're not allowed to. Rabbi Elazar and Shimon hold it's that she can. Nisarmalu and niskashuman and asuin, right? If a woman becomes an almana or she gets divorced, so minan masuin psulas. If she becomes if they were married, they're still puzzled, right? Because she's a halala, so she's not allowed to marry a kohen anymore. She can't eat truma. But if it's just from engagement, then they are ksheris. Meaning even the shitas that say that she's puzzled to eat the truma, but if she gets divorced before she gets married, meaning divorced from the engagement, then it would kick back in. All right. So again, we're having in the first Mishnah has a machlokes whether a bas kohen who gets married to a kohen that she wasn't allowed to get married to. Now again, I keep saying married. She gets engaged to a kohen that she's not allowed to be married to, whether she becomes puzzle and trumah right then and there. So that's a machlokes. But if she does get married to them, then she automatically becomes puzzle forever to eat trumah because she becomes a halal. But if she gets divorced before she got married, meaning from the engagement she gets divorced, then everybody agrees that she will be allowed to eat trumah after that divorce. Yeah, fine. So we'll do a little bit because tomorrow night's stuff is pretty short, but I don't know my schedule tomorrow night, so I'm gonna just do a little bit more. So Zogdi Gemara, if you don't mind. So Tanya, yeah, Amar Reb Meir. So Reb Meir says Kal v'chomer. It's a Kal v'chomer, right? Uma kedusha. This is one of those strange Kal v'chomers. Uma kedusha rishus ein machilin. A kedusha rishus, you're not allowed to feed truma. Kedusha avera like kol shekain is kedusha avera not a kol shekain. Meaning, what's kedusha rishus? A Yisrael marries a Yisraelis. That doesn't allow them to eat truma. I mean, obviously, right? So kedusha avera like kol shekain is kedusha avera not a kol shekain because this is a kedusha avera. A kohen marrying a divorced woman is kedusha avera.
No, but there's a kohen involved.
What?
There's a kohen involved.
So.
Can't bring a rifle.
Oh, very good. So Naftali Muhammad to the Gemara's answer. So Amru Loi, so they said to him, no, Loi, Im Amr Pikadushe Rishus, by Kedusha Rishus Kain, Ain Loi Lahachal B'Makam Achad. There will never be a scenario where this guy will be able to give his wife truma. He's a Yisrael, right? Taimar Pikadushe Avera, but Pikadushe Avera Shekain Yesh Loi Lahachal B'Makam Achad. There is a potential that this kohen could eventually he could marry a regular woman that's not the Isser, and there could be, and they're allowed to. And then, so that's the pshat of the machlokes, whether she is allowed to, whether she's usher to eat truma right away. Fine. Now the Gemara compares this to a case. So we know Petua Daka. Right? So Petua Daka is somebody who is his testicles get busted, crushed, or whatever. So again, this is one of these halachas that is very hard to understand. So this fellow is not allowed to marry anybody. He's like a mamzer. Right? He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, this guy, and now that's it. He's excluded from Klal Yisrael, at least from getting married to anybody. Yeah? So now you have a Petua Daka, and he's a kohen, and he was Makadosh Bas Yisrael. So Bonu Machlokes Rav and Reb Shimon.
The guy's got 3 out of 3 to go.
That's right. He should go buy a lottery ticket. This guy, or at least the lady. The lady picked a real winner to get involved with, right? So again, right? So that's the Machlokes Rav and Reb Shimon. The Rameir Dama Mishtameres Labia Psula Deraisa Loy Achla, right? That according to Rameir, who was the first Tana in our Mishnah, who says that she's not allowed to eat truma, right? So here too, she's not allowed to eat truma because if they're going to get married, they got engaged. If she's going to get married to this Petua Daka, then she's going to become puzzle. So she can't eat truma from now. So Hanami Lo Yachlos. So too here, she's not allowed to. I'm sorry, I said, meaning in the case of the Mishnah, where she was a grusha, so she's not allowed to eat truma. So here too, she's not going to be allowed to eat truma because she's not allowed to get married to this fellow. It's usher. But according to Rav Elazar Reb Shimon, who say that if she's mishtameres, means she's watching, meaning she's waiting to get married to the Bia Psula, right? Again, we're talking about they got engaged. A kohen who's divorced, a kohen got engaged to a divorced woman. So since she's waiting to get married to become, and when she gets married, she's going to become a chalala. So she's, again, Rameir held she's not allowed to eat truma, but Rav Elazar Reb Shimon held she is allowed to eat truma, right? So Rav Elazar Reb Shimon, the Bia Psula, the Raisa Achla, that if she's waiting for Bia Psula, the Raisa, she could eat it on Tamar Aleph now. Hanami Achla. So this one is also allowed to, meaning the P'tzua Daka is also allowed to, until they get married. Right? So the Gemara is just comparing the case of a grusha marrying a kohen to a regular Bas Yisrael marrying a P'tzua Daka. Right? Meaning a guy who can't, meaning he's not allowed to marry anybody. So Gemara says, who says you can compare the cases? Dilma, Adkan, like Reb Shimon, Hassam. Right now, you can't say Rebbe Lazar, Reb Shimon say by get, by get, the kohen could theoretically marry a regular woman who's not divorced, and he could give her trumah. So therefore, why would we make her puzzle from eating trumah? Where he can't feed anybody else, lie. So then that doesn't work. Meaning maybe they would hold that she's not allowed to eat trumah. Right? And if you're going to say, no, maybe he could, this P'tzua Daka can theoretically give somebody to eat, the Bas Gerim, because maybe the daughters of Gerim, maybe a P'tzua Daka would be allowed to marry the daughters of Gerim, which is an interesting thing, because we're saying that, yes, a P'tzua Daka is not allowed to marry regular Jews. But Gerim maybe are considered full Jews, but maybe for this, they're not considered full Jews. Right? Which is an interesting thing, because how do you treat them like that? But okay, but that's what he's thinking. Maybe he would theoretically be able to marry this kohen who has a P'tzua Daka. Maybe he could marry the daughter of Gerim, not a Gerim, right? He's not allowed to marry a Gerim. But the daughters of Gerim, he could, right? And maybe he's allowed to marry them. So and then they would be able to eat trumah. They say that can't be because this was a question that Rabbi Yochanan had from Rabbi Shia, and he never had the teretz. Right? So therefore, that can't be. So we can't compare P'tzua Daka to the kohen marrying a divorced lady. Itmar Abaya Amar, Abaya said, there are cases where the P'tzua Daka can feed somebody. Right? He could feed her truma where he never got married to her. Let's say this P'tzua Daka says, okay, I'm getting engaged to this lady, but we're never going to consummate. We're never going to sleep with each other. So if they never sleep with each other,
We had something like that with a rabbi.
What?
Right?
What do you mean?
With the rabbi traveling. We had something like that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the rabbis, they didn't actually sleep with them. Right. So he's saying maybe the P'tzua Daka never sleeps with this woman, so she'll be able to eat truma. And Rava Amar Hayil Machila Ba'avada v'Shefchaisav HaKnanim. Since this kohen, who's a P'tzua Daka, can give truma to his slaves, so then there is an opportunity for him to give out truma. So therefore, even though he's in an engagement that's not allowed to be, still there is a potential for him to still be able to feed others truma, and therefore she would not be puzzled from eating truma if she was a bas kohen. Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop over here. I hope this was semi-understandable. All right. Wish you all a good night. I'll be in touch tomorrow. Post exactly what time Daf. It should be better the same time. Anyways. All right.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Thank you.